Unit 7 is operations on functions. This is 7b, which is finding the inverse of a function. To find the inverse of a function, a lot of times you're going to have the functions going to start out with f of x or g of x or h of x. Just replace this with y. The second step is switch x and y. Just literally take the x and the y and swap places with each other. Third one is solve the equation for y. After you do that, you're going to replace the y. Once the y is by itself, isolated, replace it with f of -1 of x. So let's get into it. Find the inverse of f of x equals 2/3 x minus 4/7. I don't know about you. Well, let's start this out. First thing you do, replace the f of x with y. And I don't like fractions. So all I'm going to do is just take the least common multiple of these fractions. The denominator is 3, 7 is 21. So I'm just going to multiply the whole thing, the whole function, by 21. So 21 times y is 21y. 21 times 2/3. So 21 times 2/3, how I do this, 21 divided by 3 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. And 21 divided by 7 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. However you do it, hopefully, as long as you get 4x minus 12, you're good. Now, second step we're going to do is we're going to literally switch the x and y. You could have done this right away. 21x equals 14y minus 12. Now the last step here, or second last step, is to isolate this y. Get this y by itself. So to do that, just add 12. Add 12. Those are not like terms. Just put them right next to each other. 21x plus 12 equals 14y. And the last step to get the y by itself is divide by 14. Divide all the terms by 14. You can do them separate if you'd like, both of these terms, both of the parts of the binomial, but I just do it over the whole thing, and that's fine. So now we're going to replace this y with, and it started out f of x, so it's the inverse, which is, you note the inverse is -1, that means inverse. So anytime you see that in a problem, that means it's the inverse of a function, equals 21x plus 12 over 14. And you might be thinking, well, can't you simplify that? But 21, 12, and 14 all are not divisible by the same number, so no, we can't simplify it. So that's it. That is the inverse of this function here. Next, find the inverse of f of x equals x squared plus 5. So, nothing too fancy here. So we have f of x is y. Switch your x and y. And now we gotta get the y by itself. So subtract 5. Subtract 5. Get y squared. And when we square root this, anytime you square root something, you have to be careful. Anytime you square root something, there's a positive and a negative. It helps you just think of the quadratic formula. So square and square root cancel out here. The y is now isolated. So let's replace that back with f of x, but instead of f of x, we're going to write the inverse of f of x equals positive negative square root of x minus 5. The last example. Oh, second last, my bad. Got you excited. Last example. F of x, again, it can be g of x or anything, so I'm going to replace that with y, and I'm going to switch x's and y's. So equals 4, and in this case there was 2 x's, so replace them both with y. Alright, so now we have a division. I hate division, so let's get rid of it. Opposite of division, you need to move. If you're solving for a variable, you need to move it out of the denominator. So to do that, you multiply 5 plus 8y These are gonna cancel. Next, I'm gonna distribute this x in. 5x plus 8xy equals 4 minus 2y. Sorry, to make more room. So now what I'm going to do, we got to get the y's by itself. Now we have y's on both sides of the equation. That's not good. Let's get the y's on one side of the equation together. So I'm going to take this 4, I'm going to subtract it and over here. And on the other side, I'm going to subtract 8xy. So subtract 8xy. This might be a little confusing, but 4 is going to cancel. Those are going to cancel out. You get 5x minus 4 equals negative 2y minus 8xy. Now the y's are on the same side. Should be hopefully thinking about factoring the greatest common factor out there. So we have 5x minus 4 equals greatest common factor. The first term is negative, so I'm going to take that out. So negative. Actually, let's not take the negative. All we really care about here is the y. So let's just take the y out. You just got to get the y by itself, so let's take the y out. So negative 2 minus 8x. So now it's y times negative 2 minus 8x. The reason why I didn't take a negative or a negative 2y is I gotta get the y by itself, and now all I have to do is just divide by negative 2 minus 8x. If I divided or took a greatest common factor of negative 2 out, I would have then had to divide by negative 2 after. So it kind of cuts out one of the steps. So if you do it, it's okay. You just don't need to. So these cancel out here, and we have y equals 5x minus 4 over negative 2 minus 8x. So let's replace back up to the top, f of x. Replace that with the inverse of f of x equals 5x minus 4 over negative 2 minus 8x. There we go. That's the problem. So we gotta find if the two functions are inverses. To do this, you can do two things. You can compose them. So what we did in 7a, you can do f of actually this one of these should be g. They can't be the same thing. So it'd be like f of g of x, and if you compose them, if you ever compose them, put them together, they have to equal x, and then they're inverses. So if that happens, they're inverses. Another way to do it, what we've been doing here, is just I'm going to take one of them. I'm going to take f of x equals 2 over x minus 7, and I'm just going to find the inverse of it. So f of x is y, and x, let's switch them. X equals 2 over y minus 7. So we get this y by itself, so first we have to add 7 to move it. So we get the 2 over y isolated. And now we can multiply by y. And we multiply by y here. It's going to cancel out. And we get y. I'm writing on a curve, but slant. Equals 2, and to get the y by itself, we just divide by x plus 7. And x plus 7. So we get y equals 2 over. Now let's finish this off. Since it's y equals, we can replace it with f of negative 1 of x equals 2 over x plus 7. Is that what we have up here? Sure is. So find if the two functions are inverses. Yes, they are inverses. So come to class with any questions. Thank you.